the screen, and I'm going to put my webcam on. There we go. I'm going to put my feet down before we open up to everybody. I was on four other calls preceding this. And hi. Mark and Reed, you guys on?
We are on. I am screen sharing, so I will be going through the background stuff randomly through Rodale and the Instagram page and the website and other stuff.
Awesome. So I've got something going on right outside my office. I'm going to just walk over there real quick. I know what it is. It's my 10-week-old puppy who's playing with my 3-year-old, and I think they usually aren't right by my door, but they happen to be right now. Guys, why are you playing right there? Dad, could you call them your way to play? No, just get them. They're playing, but they're knocking into my door. I'm doing a webinar. Sorry about that. Okay, Mark, when I get sat down and I'm in the chair again, go ahead and open us up.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey, everybody. How are y'all doing? We are not formally started yet. We'll start recording in just a second. But we are so excited today to have Annie Brown with us from Rodale Institute. And she's actually a neighbor of mine. And Annie, I got to convince you sometime on a day that's beautiful like this to come and visit us at our ranch. It's not probably as nice as the Rodale location is at the Institute in Pennsylvania and anywhere else where you guys have got stuff. But it's pretty cool, and it's close. So
I would love to.
Anyway, we are so excited to have Annie with us, and we're going to do this in sort of an interview format today. So, Mark, why don't you open us up now and start recording, and I'll just kind of give a little bit of logistics instruction for everybody. All right. Hey, everybody. Just starting again. We have an amazing guest with us, just like, man, the last 10 or 12 webinars we've had where they've been, Annie, we've been really blessed with cool individuals in a bunch of different ways making an impact. 3 of them completely without us trying, from Los Angeles, one of them doing composting, one of them doing an urban farm, and the third doing plastic recycling. And they probably don't live 3 miles from each other, and 2 of them kind of knew each other, but the other third one didn't at all, and we're getting them all introduced now. So it's kind of cool. But all of our attendees and guests out there, use the question box. Ask a bunch of questions. And do you like to have questions at the end, or should we ask them as we see that they make sense? Every speaker. Okay. As you guys come in with questions, Mark's going to be looking at them. Reed's going to be looking at them. I'll be looking at them. So right now we've got myself and Annie on the screen, and then Mark is behind the glass, as we say, helping out. And Reed is actually doing the slide share where he's showing a bunch of different images that I'm sure Annie will tell us more about as we go through. We'll go about an hour, and if you guys have questions, we'll just try to answer them as we move along. So, and would you do us a favor? Put some 1s in the question box if you can hear us and see us, and then just tell us where you're at in the world, and just kind of broadly where you're at, and maybe as you ask us questions or later, we'll be able to interact with you a little more there. So, that said, Annie, beautiful day out here in Colorado, isn't it?
It's stunning, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't wait to go for a sunset hike tonight.
And I'm going to do the same. And I can hike up 700 feet and feel like I can reach out and grab Long's Peak right behind me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's about a 15-minute walk, and then it's just there. So, and by the way, everybody, it's getting dark here now at my place, and depending on where Annie's at, because we have mountains just to the west of us, which is where the sun sets. But, with 5:45, it'll still be, still light enough. 5:30 for sure. But I played golf until 5:35 Friday, and that was pushing it. So anyway, we're both going to go out and do a little hike. I'm going to just do an interview format with Annie today. So Annie, let's start out with this real broad but simple. Tell us a little bit about your life history till today. Let's say 5 to 7 minutes worth.
Oh, okay. So first, let me just introduce myself. I'm Annie Brown. I am the Director of Development at Rodale Institute. And for those of you who don't know Rodale, we're located in Kutztown, Pennsylvania, about an hour outside of Philadelphia. And I have been with Rodale since 2012. So I've been working remotely over 8 years now, and find it easy enough. I go back and forth to the farm, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. I usually end up seeing a colleague at least once a month at a conference or a show or a meeting someplace to connect with potential donors. But before that, I was with the Organic Center, which for those of you who are in the industry might know that they also do research in organic agriculture. And they're more of a think tank. We actually have a farm at Rodale. We have a 333-acre certified organic experiential farm where we conduct the majority of our research. So I was with the Organic Center for a couple of years doing a very similar job, raising money for the organization. And I was based in Boulder. The organization was based in Boulder. And in 2012, they moved back to Washington, D.C. to become part of the Organic Trade Association. And Rodale reached out to me and asked if I could do some work for them, primarily on the West Coast, mainly because they, at the time, didn't have a huge reach. And so I agreed to that. And that's how I got started at Rodale. But before all of that, I took some time off to be a mom and stayed home for a couple of years. But I've always had a passion for food and agriculture. Had started my own pasta business, homemade pasta business in Baltimore when I lived there. Have done a lot of writing about food and agriculture over the years. So this was, and before that worked in publishing, sales and marketing. So raising money for Rodale is a natural fit for me. I born saleswoman. I love being able to sell people on what we do and really I think that you can't be in development in a nonprofit unless you have passion for what you're doing. And Rodale is most certainly changing the world, and we are the global leader in research for regenerative organic agriculture. So that's just a brief background, and I'm based in Boulder, Colorado. So I don't know if I said that, just down the road from Wayne.
And by the way, she used a little different word at the very end there from organic. She expanded it to regenerative, and we'll get into that a little bit as we talk. So Rodale Institute was founded by J.J. Rodale. And
J.I.
actually, what's that?
J.I. Rodale.
J.I., that's right.
Yeah.
I always look for
Irving, I believe.
Right. And his son, and I think there was maybe more than one, but one of his sons was Bob.
Yep.
And Bob was a really good friend with Jonathan Todd, who was a professor at University of New Hampshire. And they became just bosom buddies, and they formed something called the New Alchemy Institute. And Bob died somewhat young, but I don't know whether I asked you when we were sort of prepping for this. Did you ever meet Bob? Was he already dead by the time?
Yeah, he died in 91, I believe, in a tragic car accident in Russia.
We did. I did ask you that. And you did.
Yeah.
And I thought it had to have been in the 90s sometime.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had a chance to meet Bob. He was sort of father figure, certainly mentor. Jonathan and Bob both were. And then he'd talk about his dad, who is this cool picture we're seeing here now of J.I. And how long did J.I. stay? Did he live a long and fruitful life, or did he die younger also?
He didn't live as long as I think he thought he would. He died, I think he died in 80, maybe. And there, if you Google it, there's actually, he died on a television show right after an appearance. He had a heart attack.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's at the tip of my tongue. I can't recall the name of the show, but I'm sure your listeners can Google it quickly. But yeah, that was a tragic death also.
So, from the Rodale perspective, what person at Rodale, I usually don't quite ask it this way, but it's been 8 years now, almost coming on 9. What person would you say that either there now or maybe was there previously and isn't, that just quickly you can say off the top of your head has really had the most influence on you, and why?
Well, I would say absolutely Jeff Moyer. He's our CEO, and Jeff has been with Rodale Institute for 45 years. He actually started as a farmhand. Yep. Jeff got his degree in agroecology, I believe, and he started after college. He moved back to the area where he grew up, and he got a job as a farmhand. I think he said he was making about $2.25 an hour at the time, and worked his way up to be farm manager. And after decades as a farm manager, he assumed the role of chief executive officer. But during that time, Jeff wasn't just managing the farm. He most certainly was a leader and a pioneer in the industry in helping get the USDA certified, the seal that we all know today. Jeff sat on the NOP and was part of the NOSB for decades. So he was really instrumental in bringing organic as we know it today as everyday consumers to the nation. He's a tremendous influence. He's an amazing leader. We have an organization now of nearly 60 people, certainly a lot more than when he started as a farmhand. Probably we had maybe 5 or 10. But most importantly, Jeff Moyer is the inventor of the roller crimper. And this is a farming instrument that eliminates the need to till. It takes the crops and literally crimps them down, and then you can plant on top of them so that, again, you don't have to till, so that that soil isn't disturbed. All of the microbes are in place, and no carbon is escaping. And some people have credited Jeff with the roller crimper being as important as the plow. And the invention of the plow, as we know, revolutionized how we eat as human beings. And I think that Jeff's invention of the roller crimper certainly is an absolutely important milestone in human life and agriculture, and most especially, of course, with regenerative organic agriculture. He also wrote a book, I believe it's called No Till, and talks about the importance of not tilling your land. So he would be absolutely the most important influence in my tenure at Rodale, and I believe on the organic industry as we know it today.
Chris,
have you met him?
I have read a lot about him, and I have met him. I actually sat on a panel with him at one time. So yeah, he's an amazing guy. And we're very similar. We might be just a couple years apart age-wise, by the way. So yeah, I have, and I didn't know all of that story. And actually, I didn't know that he was I didn't know that he was the developer of the rolling crimper. Which, I mean, he doesn't take a lot of credit for that. That is really cool.
Yeah.
It's do a search, Mark, if you would, or Reed, just do a Google search for rolling crimper so we could show people some. There'll be a bunch of images of it. We'll put that up at some point. Wow, very cool. That leads me to a question that I sometimes don't ask until a little bit later in the interview, but I'm going to ask it now. What's a tool that you personally have used, or maybe invented, actually, over the last year, let's say? And it can be an internet tool. It can be a in-the-ground tool. It can be anything that, again, you can think of really quickly and you would recommend to our audience. It's kind of the same passion you just talked about the rolling thing. Anything? Sometimes people don't have it, by the way, so don't worry about it if you don't.
Well, it's funny you should say. I do have something that we all love in Rodale, and we're looking into to give as gifts to some of our major donors. And this is a spoon that's made just up the road from Rodale. They're called Jonathan spoons. They've been covered in places like Oprah as one of her favorite things. But it's a really cool spoon because it has this little notch here, and you can put it on your pot when you're cooking, when you're not stirring. And it was invented, again, just down the road from Rodale, and all of the wood is from hardwoods around the area. And so these are all handmade, beautiful instruments. They have quite an enormous selection, but the notch is very handy and quite useful. Not as useful maybe as a roller crimper, but certainly handy nonetheless. So
by the way, you got to confirm this. I did not prep you on that question at all.
You did not. No, you didn't. Not at all. Not at all. No, and I ran over this morning to get this from my colleagues, saying we need to make these with the logo and the Rodale insignia on them to give to major donors. So that's what we're doing.
You think they'd mind getting more orders? If they wouldn't, Mark, would you try to make sure you get from Annie maybe later next week or something, so we can share with people, and we'll try to get them more orders from our group here. So.
Yeah, we'll be ordering a set, and we'll order extras for your viewers if you'd like. And they'll be for sale at our farm store. So Rodale Institute, of course, we have a visitor center and all of the grounds, but we also have a wonderful farm store that have tools available, as well as Jonathan Spoon's great books, a library of Rodale publications, and other wonderful goodies. And we're open to the public 5 days a week. And we always are open 24/7 if anybody is in the area who wants to come over and have a tour.
And Areed, there was a great aerial of their site back a little bit further. If you wouldn't mind bringing that one up, because then I maybe will ask Annie just about that one, because it shows really well sort of the whole location of the spot. Annie, you led into another question that I was going to get to. Great question from Chris, by the way, that I'll ask from our audience, and I want to wait just a little bit. There we go. It's this one. Tell us, while he's here, tell us a little bit, and he'll move the cursor around and try to point at different buildings as you describe them. And what are we seeing here? And is this the periphery of the farm and so on?
Sure, I'm looking at it right now. So what's most interesting, to me anyway, is this was land that is in its 9th generation from Pennsylvania Dutch family named the Siegfrieddales. And Rodale Institute sits on Siegfrieddale Road. So the farmhouse that's in the very back by the grove of trees, that is a building that I believe was from 1710 or 1720, and that's where our offices are. That's where, yes, exactly. That's where all of our, everything happens at Rodale Institute in terms of admin, development, communications, and it's a wonderful old, just beautiful, beautiful building. And again, that's where our offices are. The cluster of white buildings, that's the barn, but if you go back a little to the white buildings behind the farmhouse, there you see those, right? That's where all of our researchers have their labs and their offices. But again, the farm sits on 333 acres, and it's absolutely stunning. And we use almost all of the acres for research, whether or not they're plots that are planted or whether we're just observing the soil and its natural habitat. So we have our farming systems trial, which is our 40-year trial, which is not shown in this this shot here, but it's just about probably half a mile away from the red barn. And that is our most important and seminal work at the Institute, where we have been studying the difference between organic versus conventional in side-by-side rows of grain crops. And those crops have shown over the past 40 years that, of course, organic outperforms conventional in times of drought and excessive moisture, uses 30% less energy. Farmers usually make between 3 and 6 times more than their conventional farmers. And probably the most important, there's no difference in yield after the first 5 years of organic farming compared to conventional. So that study, again, has been ongoing for 40 years and is probably our most important and our most prominent work. I can't hear you.
I muted myself because I forgot to take it off. Right in front of the large white roofed red building where the parking lot, is that where people would come in for the tours and they'd park? Is that the visitors parking area?
No, that's actually our employee parking lot.
Okay.
There's another shot. If you are on the website, you can go to the farm store. You can Google, or you can search on the website, and there's a place where you can see the farm store, and we have a theater, and there's a little parking space up there. But
Okay. And that pond that's right behind your headquarters house, was that there, or did you guys build that, or has that been there through the years?
I believe Bob Rodale was behind that pond. I'm not 100% sure if that's correct, but I do believe that Jeff Moyer had some funny stories about the creation of that pond, but unfortunately I don't know much.
I believe I have some pictures that I'll send to you that came from Jonathan Todd of a bunch of almost transparent tanks, circular tanks, maybe 10 feet tall, with algae growing in them. Really cool bunch of, and then that pond right in the back of them. So it would have been looking back to the pond from where they were working on things. So it wouldn't surprise me if Bob would have been involved in that.
Yeah.
So switch gears just a little bit to fundraising, and that's what you're directly involved in. How much of your funding comes from donors versus you have a farm store? You know, I'm assuming that most of your funding comes from a donor base and not from revenues from sales of things on farms.
Yeah. That's absolutely correct. Right now, we have a donor base of just about a little over 1,000 individuals. So we have, we certainly work most closely with them, developing personal relationships over time. We also receive money from grants that we apply for, whether they're government or from family foundations or large foundations. And then we also do corporate. We have corporate sponsorships, corporate partnerships, and that rounds out the pie. But no, we do not have a revenue generating stream of much significance. So where there's small places that we can generate some income, the farm store would be one. We do also have a farmer training program that creates a CSA. The farmers come onto the farm, they learn how to farm, and the produce that they grow, then we sell at a very discounted rate in areas in Allentown and Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and soon to be in Philadelphia. But primarily the produce they grow, actually, we sell very discounted, but also give double SNAP dollars to those families in need. So that's, again, a small revenue stream for us, but we are hoping, we just launched our organic crop consultancy. So think extension agent, but now it's an organic extension agent. And luckily, the state of Pennsylvania, in their farm bill that they created, they were the first state to have their own individual farm bill. They gave us a grant a couple of years ago to launch a consultancy, because they understood that farmers, organic farmers, were revitalizing rural America. And if we could boost and take away some of the hurdles that they have or that they face by providing free consulting services, they would have more success. So they looked around and they realized, oh, well, we have Rodale Institute in our backyard. Why not ask them if they could provide free consulting services to any farmer in the state of Pennsylvania? And they did that, which was an enormous, enormous gift. That funding will end, but for now, we have, I believe we just signed up our 160th farmer to transition to organic. And they, again, are receiving free consulting services. And we've expanded the consultancy to now be in more areas in the Mid-Atlantic, but also in the Northern Midwest. So Iowa, Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. And we have a team of consultants out in those states. So it's eventually going to become a revenue generator for us. Right, but right now we are lucky enough to have some funding, not only from the state of Pennsylvania, but also from some wonderful benefactors like OXO, the home goods company. You know, they make vegetable peelers and salad spinners and you name it, anything that you might find in your kitchen, as well as Frontier Co-op. They sell, of course, organic spices, herbs and spices, and they have also helped promote and support the organic crop consultancy in the Midwest.
By the way, Reeve's been scrolling through images. Go back up to the rolling crimper, Reeve, and right above it is a more traditional tillage piece of equipment behind the tractor. This right here that's coming up on the left is a rolling crimper. And that would be at the front of a tractor. So that's being pushed. And then at the back of the tractor is where there'd be, amongst other things, seeding occurring. And this is a high till implement up on the top. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of tillage equipment. And then now, Reeve, scroll back to where you were ending, shows the cover material in the spring that the new plants are coming up through, and it gives a really good description and picture of that. I'm sure this video is really nice too, but here we go. And this will get much thicker, everybody. This is actually corn, looks like, coming up here. It was probably even seeded in these two rows. And yet, look at how few weeds are coming up. That right here by this, over to the right-hand side is one tiny little weed, and there's a little one on the left. That's it in that whole picture, because they've been suffocated by the vegetation that's on top of them. It's a great process. Mm-hmm. Amazing. So back on the funding side, a little bit of a controversial question. Do any of the big boys, and you can mention names if you'd like, I don't usually have a problem mentioning them, but do they try to discredit you at all? The big boys that are industrial farming oriented and love to have tillage and love to have other things put on the crops, so you feel like they're, here we go, that's a great picture of the cover crops with corn growing next to it. You feel
Yeah,
any
it's actually
negative
our
really
farming.
from them?
No, back to your question. No, we don't. I mean, they really don't. Tomorrow we have a big announcement coming out where we are partnering with one of the big ag companies in the world, and I can't reveal that until tomorrow, unfortunately. But I think that they are finally waking up and understanding that we can work together, and that we're talking about the health of the world at this point, and that they understand that there's a lot about organic that they could incorporate into their own systems, that wouldn't necessarily compete, but would actually enhance their own operations. So, there might be some behind the scenes conversations that we don't hear, certainly, but we do feel that the landscape has changed, and COVID, I think, has really helped. It certainly has helped with our message in people understanding and really realizing the importance of organic agriculture, not only for human health, but also for planetary health, as we're facing climate change issues on a daily basis. I don't know if you saw the news this morning with that glacier that overtook over 177 people in northern India. Yeah.
Yeah, Reeb probably heard a lot more about that because it's probably very close to Pakistan, and he is in a.
Oh, sure.
He really does some things in northern Pakistan. On the back on sort of what you do, what goes on day to day at the Institute, if there were people in our audience that would like to potentially become a laborer there or get involved, how's the process of people or even fundraising? Obviously, we'll figure out how to connect everybody to Annie, because I'm sure she'd love to increase that base from 1,000 to 5,000 or whatever the number might end up being. But how would people, what's the best way to maybe look for how they could help working if there were jobs available?
Yes, absolutely. Right now, we in fact, I believe, have at least 8, maybe 10 jobs open. We are in a period of real growth at the Institute. 4 years ago, we had